Friends, good afternoon and welcome to another live stream. And look who the cat dragged in. I've been trying to get Kelli on this show forever. Kelli, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for having me. I love watching your channel. You are super entertaining and very informative. So thanks for having me.
I paid her off screen, by the way, guys, to say that. Seriously, Kelli, the feeling's more than mutual. And I've been learning. I'm still trying to catch up on your editing skills. Hey, guys, put a one in the chat if you know Kelli, if you've seen her channel, or if you've seen her do previous interviews. And two, if not, because the twos we're going to have to definitely give a trigger warning to. Because, Kelli, I told you before we started that I saw your interview on cults to consciousness, and it broke my freaking heart listening to your story and how strong you are to get on the other side of this and be this bubbling creature that you are today. So I don't want to go into anything that's re-stimulative too much, but my friends, if you haven't heard her story before, and we can actually throw up the chat, what we'll do, guys, is we'll jump you in here, once in a while so we can see what's going on. But if you haven't heard her story, be prepared, because it's really sad how, as a child, this is an example of what happens to, what are you, Kelli, third generation, would you say? How did Scientology come into your family? Let's start there.
Yeah, so my mum was in Scientology when she was really small. Her dad was in it as well. So she's been around it for a really, really long time. But my dad joined off his own volition. A friend of his, he was like a competitive cyclist. He was doing really well, but kept getting injured. And a friend of his basically said, I've got this new technology. It's called Dianetics, and it will cure all of your injuries. And he joined then and there and went in. And fun fact, he never, ever got on a bike again after joining Scientology. So
Why not, Kelli? Didn't first of all, wouldn't the handling for an injury be like a touch assist or something like that? And wouldn't he have gotten a win out of that in order to then get into it right away? How did he get into it right away without handling his cycling ruin?
Well, the way he described it, once he realized that he's, lived a bunch of lives before, he was like, I've probably been a famous cyclist before, and there's stuff going on now that the world needs my help. So you know what? Scientology is the greatest good for the the greatest number
Greatest
of
good for the
dynamics,
greatest number of
whatever it's called.
dynamics. And you know
That's
what the
it.
main dynamic is, Kelli? The group dynamic, or Scientology.
Mhm.
So it's not about the first dynamic, which is self, or the eighth dynamic, which is God or infinity. It always circles back around to, it's all about Scientology being the most important dynamic, or the third or group dynamic.
Yes.
So,
Well, in answer to your question, I would call myself a 2.2 Scientologist born cult baby.
but then you become a 1.1, which is covertly hostile when you become 6 years of age. But before we get up to that, can you please tell how your mom and your dad kind of met and got into Scientology, and then how they kind of
Yeah.
wished you into it?
Yeah, so they were on staff in Manchester org, and they were just dating at the time. One thing leads to another, and
And there
hi,
comes Kelli.
pop along, hello, yeah. It wasn't really a thing that was supposed to develop, as far as I am aware. She was very young; she was only 16 at the time, and he was about 26. So,
Wow.
I'm sure people have lots to say on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you are in Scientology, I will say they believe like that you're all kind of immortal, ageless
Right.
people. I think that's why lots of sexual crimes and things actually happen within it, and they justify it because of that. So, yes. That is what I'll say on that. And that's how they met. And they had me and decided that they should get married. Yeah, I attended my parents' wedding as a 1-year-old. So
Wow. Wow. There's so many similarities already with your story. Like, my mom would brag at the family gatherings after she would show like videos of my fat ass, because I was like a fat baby, and she'd always make comments about, I realized she was subtly cutting me down even at the family gatherings. And one of the things which she would always brag about is that I was an accident. And I'm like, thanks a lot, Mom, for saying that in front of the freaking uncles and relatives. And like you say, I know it sounds crazy, my friends, but this concept that allows you to justify anything about this is just one lifetime, you're a spiritual being, it doesn't really matter. Once that gets inculcated into you, and it did to my father as well, Kelly. Like you said, they can justify anything from sexual abuse to basically what they did to you about, offloading you. Did your before we get up to that, did your well, I guess could you tell us how did Scientology get introduced to you? Then I wanted to ask you a question about that, jumping off of that when we get there.
Yeah, so the first probably things I knew about Scientology was being in the orgs. My mum and dad worked there, so I've slept in those orgs, like on chairs and things. So I've been around all of it, and then
Hmm.
these first sort of I guess doctrine part that got introduced to me was all of the ethics. Basically, that's kind of what I thought Scientology was the ethics part of it.
How
Yeah,
would they
so
apply that to you right out of the gate? They didn't put you on a communication course. They didn't say, "Here, hon, let us introduce you slowly to this wonderful new thing we found." They threw you right into ethics. How did that come about?
so it was um there's a whole story of this, of how I became an SP and all of that, but um I had to do quite a lot of like e-meter handling, doing write-ups of my crimes, literally making a list of all the crimes I've committed as a really small child, and yeah, having to basically go on the e-meter, confess, write a letter of apology, be making amends. So I would be like my family's personal cleaner.
Oh my
um,
god.
and yeah, we would later do things like the purif and things like that, but we did this all within my household. So I did spend time at like Greenfields, and I've been to St.
Mhm.
Hill and blah blah blah, but I didn't do any like um official courses in a course room with all of those things. I did it at home. That it got brought to me at home. Yeah.
This is what makes your story so crazy, Kelly, and makes me feel like I kind of had a really easy upbringing compared to you because normally they do it at the church, and my parents were introducing it to me slowly by trying to like actually help me before the conditions and all that crap got introduced to me. And at least at the cult, you have some kind of supervision, but your dad just cut loose on doing something that I want to explain to the audience is really out tech, as they would call it in Scientology. Like, I believe your dad would get in trouble for practicing
Yeah.
the way he's doing it at home. You're not supposed to do that. The cult wants all the money. So, how did your dad, especially when you said, I believe he got up to the OT levels, he was an OT 5, right? He got up that high.
Yeah.
How on
Yep.
earth did he keep that a secret from the cult? When his ethics were constantly being checked and the security checks for the OT levels and stuff, how did he keep that withhold?
Yeah, so he explained to me that he, thought it was all the right thing to do, and that it just never came up as a
Really
withhold. Yeah, it never came up as
amazing.
something that he should address. I think as well, like the probably one of the first things that I learned that is kind of not crazy ethics was the sort of what a thetan is. I was like, okay, it's like a soul. Get it? The Christians believe that. I get it.
Right.
But we've all got our own vibes. So I understood that one, and I was
Me
like,
too.
yeah, fair. Call it whatever you want to call it. It's probably the only bit that makes any sense, apart from the alien thing.
Are you
But yeah.
saying that you always felt like a spiritual being, so to speak, or something deeper than just the body and the mind? And because Scientology is a very, for lack of a better term, kind of Gnostic tradition where they're not the first ones to come up with the idea that you are a spirit. There's some essence that's deeper than just, your physicality or whatever. Are you saying that you already kind of had some kind of belief in that anyways? And that
Yeah,
is that what you're
I think so. I think it's like awareness. When you become
hmm
aware of, you have your own thoughts. And I think because I was made to like analyze my own thoughts quite a lot, trying to find my crimes and writing down whenever I thought something about someone, like it would be stupid. It would be like, oh, I thought this kid at school's shoes was stupid. Like it would literally be
Because
literally
what else
so.
is there as a freaking kid? What are you writing up to your parents that they're going, "Oh yeah, hun"? Is this before? or after you got officially declared an SP? Like, were you
I did
already
these
getting hit with it?
write-ups. Yeah, I did write-ups constantly. Like it was a, they probably stopped when I became a teenager because it was just I was just over it by then.
Mhm.
I wasn't complying anymore. Like, but yeah, I did them mostly under the age of 11. I did them constantly.
Was this a way for your dad and or your mom to control you, to make you the scapegoat? I mean, because really, Kelly, to me, that's kind of child abuse. Not kind of, it is because they're taking advantage of, they're basically kind of terrorizing you and keeping you under control, and you didn't do a damn thing wrong, and you're a kid. So what could you possibly have as overs? With your dad, going back to what we were talking about earlier, with them believing in the past lives like my dad did, and I thought my dad could read my mind because he was an
Yeah.
OT. Did you not see it necessarily as abuse, but that you were the wrong one and that your dad you had on a pedestal like a lot of kids do with their parents? You just believe what he says. And did you really believe that you were actually at fault and that you had done something as a 6-year-old by thinking the wrong thoughts about some kid's shoes and stuff?
Yeah, 100%,
Oh
100%.
God.
Because why you would think, well, what reason do they have to lie to me?
Right.
They're always talking about saving the planet and saving the world. Like they go to these big events where they're trying to save the world. And I'm not a part of it because there's something wrong with me. Um, and I did think they were like I found it hard to get to the confession because I didn't know what I was confessing to. Like
Right.
it was news to me, is what I always say. It was news to me every time I confessed to something. I was like, okay, I never thought that in my life, and here I am confessing to it. But I just thought, right, maybe it's something I'm doing that I'm just not aware of. I can't control it. I can't uh, I don't think that I'm doing it, but maybe I am somehow.
Yeah, I
And
know
it
what
was
you mean.
very stressful to be in that situation because you're just like, I don't know how to change it. Like, I tried to not speak. I tried to be really, really good and, be literally, like I said, I was like the housekeeper. I cleaned and cooked and looked after my brothers and all sorts. And um, I could never be out of the you're the black sheep in the family thing. So yeah.
And you had no outside help, Kelly, no friends you could confide in, or no teachers that wondered why. Did you act a little bit strange at school and around your friends, or did you keep that part of your mind compartmentalized?
So I was quite like hyper, I guess, at school. I'd be quite loud and I think my teachers used to describe me as infectious because if I would start on a banter, on a joke, everyone would also start laughing as well. And I was
I could
like,
see that about you.
I think it's a compliment. I'm going to take it. I remember
Yeah.
like they said it to my dad once at like a parents' evening, and I was like, yes, somebody believes me. But we moved house so often, right? I lived in every school year. I basically moved to a new school, new house, new school. My mum wanted to
Wow.
move a lot. I guess she was trying to outrun her demons or who knows what. That's how my dad describes it anyway.
Mhm.
So I never really was with people long enough to, get that kind of a friendship. I had explained it to a friend once, and they were just like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty weird." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's weird. I don't want to be the weird kid at school. Like, we're just gonna not talk about this." Like, that's kind of how I dealt with it. And I also thought if I said anything to anyone at school, like my mum would know. Like she would
Yeah. No.
be like, you've chatted about us, you've said something to someone about us. And I just couldn't deal with that drama because I struggled to have the chat when I didn't have any withholds and over it. So if I actually had one, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. So, can you give an example of like how they would put you on the meter, or didn't you say that they were so fanatical that your mom and or dad would wake you up at 11 p.m. at night on a school night and pull you down to ask you what and to do what?
Yeah, so it wasn't like it wasn't scheduled that way or anything, but it did happen like that. My mum was an alcoholic. She might still be one. I have no idea. Um, but she would get into arguments with my dad a lot, and once they had it confirmed that I was an SP, I was a clear source of trouble. So if they couldn't figure out what was wrong in this argument, why is things going wrong? What's happening? Is it your fault? Is it my fault? No, it's Kelly's fault. So they would,
So ridiculous.
we've got an SP in our bloody house, like get her downstairs and we're going to have a chat to her, basically. And it has been like 3 a.m. before when it's happened. It could be at any time of the day, to be honest. And they would just go on for hours, absolute hours of just the
Hours, Kelly?
same,
Hours? What would they ask
yeah.
you for hours? What could you possibly be doing for hours on that freaking meter?
Yeah, it was like recalling, different parts of the day or different interactions I'd had with maybe my brothers or, a conversation with my mum or whatever. And it'd be like, well, what were you thinking about then? And then, oh, your needles just moved. What was that just there? And I'm like disorientated.
Were you
I'm
even
like,
able to stay awake? I mean, were you trying to half focus because you're going to get the real ringer if you don't stay awake at 3 a.m.? Were you really
trust
trying?
me, I was
Oh
awake.
my! Because you were terrorized, right? You were
Yeah,
terrified.
I was awake. I
Oh,
was really scared. I honestly cannot tell you how much I hate that bloody machine.
I
I
understand. Me too.
hate it.
Me too.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It never has done. You can literally squeeze it harder. The thing will move, whatever. I'm sure some people will have more science behind it or, logic at least. But no, I hate that bloody thing. But yeah, they were going for hours and they'd just be trying to find the details in every little action, every little element of whatever the story was of the day, right? So could be me getting up, getting ready for school. Could be me talking to a friend outside my house. It could be, a fight my brothers had separate to me and how I caused that from afar. Like it was,
Really?
yeah, it was exhausting. And yeah, it always ended up in the same thing that I had to confess that, I was intentionally trying to
Destroy the family
destroy them. Yeah, all of
and
them.
destroy Scientology.
Scientology.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that is kind of how that went about. I don't know if you wanted to talk about how the SP thing came about. We can.
Yeah.
Um,
Just want to say
and
one thing really quick, Kelly. If it's any consolation at all, I can totally relate. It's really good talking to you because that's exactly it validates my own madness that was going on in my family. My dad was an OT3 when I was just
yeah,
starting high school. And all the while growing up, well, my dad got into it when I was 9. So I can so relate to what you're saying. And having an OT specifically that thinks that they know everything anyways, the arrogance is
yeah,
extreme. And then me as a child looking up to my dad and believing that I know I'm the one that's wrong, and then having to confess everything. The reason I was so honest with my family, they can get everything out of me, is because they break down the boundary. So I would almost overspit just to prevent the punishment from coming out. And it's really good to talk to you, man, because it validates that what we actually grew up in wasn't normal, because that's all we knew for a while, and that it wasn't us, it was our parents in Scientology. That's a key
yeah,
distinction to make. I just feel horrible, man, because, well, plus you're bringing back some memories that I have to keep telling myself that it wasn't normal. This is not normal.
yeah.
Which to
It's
the
not.
outside world goes, of course it's not. You guys, your family's crazy, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't,
You guys
even to
are
this
you
day,
guys
I
are
still,
wild.
yeah, I know. Yeah, but Kelly, so before you say about how you were declared an SP, do you think that your dad, looking back at it, generally was a believer and he wasn't necessarily just using it as a control mechanism? Because once he believes in the tech and the OT-ness and we're all spiritual beings and you're probably the problem. I could see how he could come out with that logic based on the insanity of
Yeah.
the tech. Do you feel like he was legitimately trying to help you, or he was just was he getting off at all on controlling you or anything in this way?
No, I think he was a genuine believer, and I think he was trying to, be at cause and make his family work and all that stuff. And I think that as well because he has been in touch with me since, like we are talking. It's a progressive thing, and I think if it was just a way to be abusive, then he wouldn't bother talking to me now, and trying to um, acknowledge what happened and say sorry and stuff. Like, because that is where we're kind of getting to, which is great. But it's difficult, and I don't think he would do that if he was just getting off on it, as you said.
Hope that works out, Kelly, and keep us posted because I just started having communication with my mom. My dad passed a few months ago,
Yeah,
and so I haven't
sorry.
talked to my mom. Oh, thank you. I haven't talked to my mom for, I don't know, 10 years. So it's really weird,
Wow.
isn't it? Kind of getting back with the people that we left a long time ago that
Yeah. 10 years for you as well. We've got like weird
I
parallels.
know. I noticed that when
Weird.
we were talking before we went live and just on the phone and stuff. It really is weird. That's why it's good to talk to you, man, because sometimes you need
Me
to
too.
validate it. So thanks, Kelly. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah. So how do you go to being a suppressive person at age 6? How did they come to that conclusion, and who did that? Your mother or your father or both?
It would have been my dad. So my mum was having all these issues, right? She's had to do this PTS handling, SP disconnection stuff with her own mum, and she found that, well, I've disconnected from my mum, still having issues. So why am I still having problems? There must be someone else. And the attention got turned to me,
I
basically.
see.
So they invited the chaplain from Manchester Org. His name's Ewan. I don't know how you pronounce it. Ewan. If any of you guys in the comments know him, please send him my way. I would love to have a chat with this man.
Can you say the name again? And does he have a last name?
Ewan. No, I didn't get a last name, but
So
Ewan.
EWAN.
Ewan, chaplain of Manchester Org, probably
Okay.
in late 90s, 2000s.
Anybody that knows that, please do leave a comment so Kelly can and or he can reach out to you or whatever. But if anybody has information, yeah. Do you have some animosity, Kelly, towards the whole situation, or you want to get some
I
answers, or
just would
what would you
like a
say?
chat.
Yeah.
I
I
would
just want
just
to know
like a
what the
chat.
hell happened. Just a
Yeah, I
friendly
would like a
chat.
chat with this man, what's done is done.
Yeah.
But, this man had me on an e-meter, which I rock slammed on, apparently. I can't entirely tell you what that looks like, but if you rock slam, that means you are pure evil, my
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
So, that's what happened to me, basically.
This is the guy
Um,
that did the session, Kelly, that your parents
the
sent you
sec
down
check.
to sec check to
He
determine
came
that you
he
were a
came to us.
SP. Oh,
Yeah, he came to us, and did the sec check with me because they were like, we need to, figure out what the problem is. Like, we think it could be our kid. Could you have a look? And he was like, sure, I'll help you.
no problem. She's an SP.
Um,
It's handled. What's the big deal?
yeah,
Isn't it obvious, guys? Kelly, how the hell did that go down? Like, so he shows up at your house with his little briefcase and his little e-meter. You're
I'll
probably
be
absolutely
honest, I couldn't tell
terrified.
you. I couldn't tell you. I don't really remember it.
Oh,
Like,
wow, wow.
I don't remember the actual thing. I know what all the weird questions they ask and stuff. You know what? I
Mhm.
probably laughed. That's what's even worse. I probably was like, this is silly, and
Joker
laughed, and
and
then
degrader.
literally ruined the rest of my life. Like,
Do you
but
think that's what it was that you were? Because you can't laugh during something that serious. That would be joking and degrading in Scientology. Do you think that match with the rock slam just guaranteed that you're demon possessed and you're the SP?
probably, like, I am a joker. I've always been one. So yeah, I don't know. I probably giggled at something. Probably when they said, have you ever made a planet radioactive? I
Right,
probably went,
right. That was my
that's
favorite
weird.
one. Yeah, my
That's
dad
my
used to run
favorite
these
too.
stupid lists on me too. When he was practicing, and I'd be like, I
Mm.
remember that. So the children's security check was what you're talking about, right? From 6
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
12. Have you ever pulled the air cover off of a planet? What are some other ones? Do you remember? Have you ever,
Um,
is there something you're not telling your parents and it was all about, you have to have boundaries. Have you ever done anything wrong, or are you hiding a secret from your folks, or just really, really invasive questions?
yeah. Have you? What is the? Have you ever failed to save your leader? What? Like,
Right. They're past life whole track type questions that they ask to kids, my friends. And like you have
it's
no idea what
ridiculous.
you mean I've ever pulled. Kelly, had you been indoctrinated in the fact that you are a spiritual being, and were you told about the past lives as a kid and actually
Yeah.
believing in that, and therefore you could at least make some sense of the questions?
Yeah, and to this day, I don't have an issue with the, people believing in past lives. Like, who actually knows? Nobody
Mhm,
does.
mhm.
And,
Me
people
neither,
believe,
but it's the manipulation.
yeah. Absolutely. So as an idea, I can't prove it either way, to be honest.
Mhm.
Do I personally think I've lived a past life now?
Mhm.
Not really. Because I just don't get that. I don't feel that,
Mhm. Mhm.
I wouldn't say I'm a
Scientology can
very,
handle that, Kelly, for
I'm sure I'm
$1,000,000
sure it can.
and 30 years. Only when you get up to the top, we can prove it. Yeah, the carrot
Well, I
on the
cannot
stick.
wait. Yeah. So, sorry, I forgot your question. I got
No,
all
no, there's no
distracted.
real question. We're just floating along. But so you had this auditor come to your house, and then you
Yes.
don't remember that night, right? When he left and packed up his silly meter, and then all of a sudden your life changed. Do you remember vaguely what happened that night as to what was about to come? Like what did your parents say to you? Do you remember it all?
I honestly couldn't give you any sort of direct quote from that time. I was 6, and I do not trust even my own 6-year-old's brain.
Yeah.
But I do know that, after that time, they basically had some options. My parents had some options on what they were supposed to do with me. And, as we all know, you're supposed to disconnect from SPs. That is what you're supposed to do. So the options on the table were adoption, boarding school, or a third experimental option, which is the one my dad went for. Now, they couldn't do adoption. According to my dad, he said he didn't want to unload
Adoption? You're her
an
daughter?
SP onto a new family. He thought
Really?
that was really like wrong of him to do that to another
That's
family.
wrong, but not for him to give up his only daughter.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, and
right,
let's be real. Like, could you imagine going to an adoption agency and being like, "Sorry, my kid's the devil. So we're gonna just,
right.
can
That
you
wouldn't
take
fly
her?"
with
Like,
sane
no,
people. Yeah.
no. And with, I've got 2 brothers as well. Like that, they would be like, "Well, hold on, you've just done this with this kid. What about the other two?" Like, there would be so many other issues if, apart from unloading an SP to a new family, like so many other
The
issues.
biggest issue should be, though, that you're his daughter first and foremost, and Scientology to take a back seat. But the unfortunate thing, I was just listening to Leah and Mike's podcast that, they just finally came back and did one. They were touching upon the same thing where the lengths that Scientology parents go to protect the church at all costs because it's their freedom, it's their way out of here. And
Yeah,
that justifies everything. Because other people go, I would never do that to my kid. I could never leave my daughter or son. But you can when you're in Scientology and your mind has been hijacked and your
yeah,
values get reframed. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about the third dynamic or Scientology. So once they hold your dad's and my dad's eternity over us, anything becomes justified, including madness like offloading your only child. Well, this is just a father daughter game that we're playing, Kelly. We can pick this up next lifetime. We're just
yeah,
playing a little game here. It's all
yeah.
eternity. It's so mad. And
I'm
like you,
just your dad in this lifetime, but in a
right.
different lifetime, you might have been my dad. What?
That's really sick and kind of incestuous if you follow that trail far enough. But that's the kind of shit
Yeah.
that I absolutely believed,
No, and
100%.
I totally feel like they definitely get a chokehold on you once they've, got into your head that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
My dad told me a story of a time when he had to work for OSA, like the Office of Special Affairs,
Oh, really?
and yeah, like they get public to do a
Right,
lot of their work, right? And
right.
there was a protest going on outside of Manchester Org, and they made him sign this like waiver basically saying, we're going to teach you some new OT tech, and you need to sign this waiver. If you tell anyone about this, we'll charge you £10,000 basically.
Mhm.
um, and the mission was to go to this protest and yell the same phrase at these protesters, which was something along the lines of, "You're wasting our time, you're wasting your time, you're wasting the police's time," something along that line, with the intention of the protesters physically harming them, like stabbing or whatever, enough to get them arrested, enough to get the protesters arrested. Um, which is just crazy. And he did it. He went and did that and yelled at them for hours. Like hours they shouted at them for. Um, and I just think that's insane. And I was like, "You were willing to get stabbed for this church?" And he was like, absolutely, I was willing to get stabbed for the church. I was like, wow, that is something else, you know?
You never believed in it at all, did you, Kelly? Did you ever have any moment of believing any of this? Because I really can relate to what your dad said, because unfortunately I did drink the Kool-Aid after they beat the shit out of me over and
Yeah.
over and over, where I finally went under. How were you able to resist? How were you able to resist knowing that you're going to be punished if you don't take to this? Because my parents were nonstop on just always putting it there. So, did you ever think
Mm.
about fake becoming a Scientologist just to prevent the torment from happening? Or how did you
Could you
kind of handle the whole
imagine?
situation? I know.
No, I didn't actually. Like, I think when I had like met friends and stuff from school, I think I was very much like, this is weird, and I don't want to be associated with it. Like, it's weird. And I also didn't think I could be a Scientologist anyway, because I was always messing up. Like, I always was in the wrong anyway. So I was like, well, it's because I'm not a Scientologist. I told the staff at Greenfields I wasn't a Scientologist,
Right,
and
right.
that went down really
Didn't
well.
you have to pull
You
up
know,
rocks and fucking well, can you tell that story real quick? Because it's kind of
get to
funny.
the
Didn't they
rock
make you do the hip
pile.
hip hooray thing with this Hubbard shit? And
Oh my days, honestly, right? I don't know if any of you guys watching this have ever listened to an L. Ron Hubbard lecture, but it's just droning and it goes
yeah,
on, and it's like
yeah,
salad, just words and words and words and
yes.
words, and it's just stupid, right? It's not it. And I've listened to these in the car, I've listened to these at my house,
Yes.
whatever. Um, so I was like, this guy is boring,
And
straight up.
crazy.
He's
Did you think he was
and
crazy or
crazy.
just boring?
I didn't even get it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I was
Yeah.
just like, I don't even understand what axioms he's talking. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit. I don't know what he's talking about. So so when I go to Greenfields, we get a 3 cheers for LRH at the end of a lesson. I was like, you are joking me. Is this really happening? I was like, mm-mm. I was like, and I just sat there. I didn't do anything. I just sat there and I didn't clap. I didn't say anything. Just was like, and I had learned that everyone's free to pick their own religion, right? At school and stuff. I was like, I had loads of friends that were Muslim and Christian and all these different religions, right? So I was like, well, I choose to not be a part of this religion. I was like, I'm not a Scientologist, so I'm not going to take part in this, religious ritual of clapping for L. Ron Hubbard or whatever.
Wow.
And that was it. And not only did I get in trouble, like 3 other kids that laughed at me also got in trouble. And then we had to go out to this, like, just outside the school near where the playground and stuff was. We just had to move rocks, like, I'm talking just little rocks, just move them from here to over there.
Oh
It's like,
my
why are we doing this like
God.
this? And it's kind of painful too. Like, we're all in like dresses and stuff. You're kneeling on the ground. Get like all these like, my knees look like cheese graters. It was awful. And then you're like, this sucks. This hurts. This sucks. Why are we doing this? It's like, do it faster. Like, it'll be
Wow.
over quicker. You need to do it. Like, you made a mistake in there, whatever. I was just like, okay, whatever. We did it. And we did loads of stuff like that. We ran laps. We would clean like border races. I literally remember us doing that and thinking, am I in the 1960s? Like, I didn't think this was a real thing that happened. I thought this happened in movies. Like, why am I cleaning chalk border races? You know what I mean?
This
So,
is school, Kelly. What grade would we be talking about here?
I would have probably been about 7 or 8 at this time. So
Okay.
that's
What would
like
that be? First grade,
year,
kindergarten?
yeah, it might be first or second grade. I don't know the
Did you ever
American
get
version.
to play around or whatever? What were you? Why were you doing manual labor at 6? Were you ever studying any lessons? Did they have any real material, or was it actually all L. Ron Hubbard at 6 that you were studying, study tech and stuff?
Honestly, I could not tell you. I don't remember half of it, probably because it was boring as hell.
Yeah, good for you.
I
Bless your heart.
remember the yawn hiding. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I still kind of do it. It's weird.
I
Like,
understand.
or like you think, oh, you don't want especially if I'm talking on a stream like this or on, like if we're on the other ones, I'm like, oh, if I yawn, like, will people who are ex-Scientologists think I don't understand something just naturally? I'm like,
Yes,
maybe,
I
so
understand. That came
Yeah.
up on the stream last night, Kelly. There's a guy named Blow Drill asked, because I was trying to clear an MU that don't worry, Doug, not everybody, only Scientologists believe that when you yawn, that means you went past something you don't understand. Yeah, it took me forever to kind of figure out what is human thinking and what is Scientology thinking, even though you never
Yeah.
took to it. Um, Real briefly, before we go back and pick up the story from Greenfield, did you have to go through a deprogramming process, even though you never became a Scientologist? I surely these concepts and were embedded in your brain somewhat about the feeling guilty, about like you said, the yawn thing. Did that take a while to get over and realize that was ridiculous?
Oh yeah, 100%. And like I will say, I've done a lot of therapy.
Oh, good
Since
for
I've
you.
left and stuff. I think you can find just ways of reconnecting with yourself and others. Like I always say, get yourself some good friends. Like be around people that you can be yourself around, and you can um, just get in touch with who you are and what you like and stuff, and not what you've been told to like and all of that thing. I don't know if that makes sense. If I explain that poorly, I'm sorry, but yeah, I think you just have to get in touch with who you are again.
While we're on the subject, how would you recommend getting friends? Because I couldn't talk about this to anybody. They either didn't understand, they weren't interested, or I was a loon for being a Scientologist. Is it something you felt freely to talk with new friends? Did you bring it up? Or are you saying you got new friends with leaving that part kind of out of the equations? Or did you have them to help you heal it all?
I'll be honest. The first time I would like leave, the friends I already had that I built trust up with, I did tell them. But when I moved to London and went to uni, I didn't tell anybody there that I grew up in a cult. Like now that I'm a bit a bit older and stuff, and I have my YouTube channel, it's actually
Hmm.
a really easy segue to talk about it. Because they'll be like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I make YouTube videos." Like, "Oh, what do you do it about?" I'm like, "Cults," and they're like, "What?" I'm like,
Which
"Well, I
one?
actually, yeah, exactly." And then I go, "Oh, I actually grew up in a cult," and they do that exact thing. Which cult did you grow up in? I go Scientology, and they go, "Oh,
Tom
Tom Cruise,"
Cruise.
literally. So
So ridiculous, by the way, Kelly. Like there's so
I
much more
know,
important shit going on, but unfortunately people know about, oh, Tom Cruise.
yeah, literally. But that is a good segue into it. And if people want to know more, because people are generally quite interested
Hmm.
in, how cults work and stuff, more than I would have thought, if
Me
I'm
too, Kelly.
honest.
Me too.
And I'll happily get into a discussion about it with anybody that wants to. But I've got, there's levels, isn't there? There's like what you're comfortable talking about, and then there's, I don't. I say my family were in it and stuff, but I don't go into, the whole details of it. I might say, oh yeah, I was a devil child, and I can laugh it off and joke it off and stuff, because it's like you never want to burden people with
I
such
understand.
heavy stuff. So I try and be as lighthearted as I can about it, but also real and honest,
Hmm.
and I'll say, yeah, haha, Tom Cruise, but they're child trafficking, by the way, you know.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise is a party to that and is totally aware of it and uses some of the Sea Org members to use as child trafficked people to do free labor for him. And
Yeah.
still he doesn't have a
They've
problem with it.
decorated his house,
I know.
you know. It's
Yeah, and they
ridiculous.
pimped out his car, his airport hangar, and everything. I think one of these days it's gonna maybe sooner than later, especially Kelly with what's happening with Masterson and everything. I think that the cows will come home to roost, or whatever the hell the phrase is, with Tom eventually. I think that that's coming soon. At least taking a hit at the box office, or maybe finally, because there's so much pressure with Scientology and Masterson, perhaps he'll be confronted more by reporters. It's long, long overdue.
Yeah. I feel like they used to. There was a period of time where they tried to get
They
in there
did.
with questions,
Not
and it
anymore.
just no.
It's just
But
went
you're
radio
right.
silent for what, 5 years now? Yeah, but there was a
Yeah.
time when it was all the rage actually to try to sneak in shit. And now reporters, Tom Cruise, when he's going to meet with somebody, I mean, you could scream it out in public or something. But if he's going to meet with somebody, he has a list of stipulations that say you can't talk about Scientology, this and that. They're obviously screened, shall we say, beforehand, so that doesn't happen. But who cares about Tom Cruise? Enough about him.
What if
Um,
somebody wanted to talk to him about Scientology positively? Would he do that publicly?
you mean as a genuine actually being positive about Scientology or as a
Yeah.
fake way to get in to ask Tom then penetrating questions later?
No, let's say it's completely, because I don't think he would personally, even if it
Really?
was
Why do you say
legit.
that? You don't think he would even
Because
take it up if it was positive, if another Scientologist that was on the other end of a mic or something?
show me the interview. Where is it? You know what I mean?
I don't think
I
there's
just
too
don't
many
think
people
he.
that are positive. He used to
No.
talk about it, Kelly, back in the day, and he was proud of it. He was promoting it, especially what 2005 when he was he's all over all the talk shows and everything, bragging about it or really wanting to get people into it. But he got absolutely hammered and sort of was told to stop or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
he tries to get people in secretly behind the scenes, and he's always looking for his next girlfriend, whoever that will be, to of course become a Scientologist. That's another thing, Kelly. They limit the shit out of you, don't they? If
Yeah.
you if you're a Scientologist, you can only have Scientology mates basically once you start to get more invested. And the higher up I was going up the bridge, the less possibilities I had for a wife or a girlfriend because they have to be at my case level and this and that. And I could just feel my reality getting an option squeezing and
They have to
squeezing
be at
and
the same
squeezing.
level as you.
They don't have to be, but you want them to be. When I was getting onto the
Wow.
OT levels, I wasn't looking for some, measly person at grade 4 because you're on such a different reality, Kelly. You don't understand, man. I would tell my girlfriend at the time, I had this girlfriend, Melinda, and I would tell her, she was like, I brought her in and she was just doing basic course and shit. And she was into it only because I was. Thank God she left after we broke up or whatever. And she was just doing it because I was. But yeah, I was always, it's just really embarrassing to say, but it is what it is. I would sit there and tell her, about and make her feel bad without doing it on purpose, but pretending like it was just like I was trying to tell her the wins and the gains and oh, you got to get up to the OT levels, Melinda, and all this shit. And it was just basically bragging about how much more I knew than she did. And I was always on her and kind of angry at her for not moving up the bridge fast enough. It's so fucking stupid looking back at it.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank God I'm not.
Why were you? Is there anything that made you like feel annoyed about that? Was it because you were like, we could do this together? Like, what was that?
That's a great question. I don't even know if it was that, Kelly, but just being so status happy myself of what it took to get onto the OT levels and being able to look down on other people, if you want the real answer. I wasn't
Mm.
necessarily looking to have the same reality. I wasn't dying for her to know what was on these secret levels, a little bit, but it was mostly just a status thing in Scientology. I really wanted to be an OT like I was in an acting class. I had a lot of OTs and shit, and I just wanted to be like them so I could look down on other people. It sounds
Mm.
terrible, but that's really what I was thinking. It wasn't about like, because you just care more and more about yourself, basically. I think it makes you into a narcissist. And it's ridiculous. But in Scientology, from your father, I'm sure he's pretty proud of being an OT5, and it took him a long time to get there. And it gives you a certain God on a pedestal and a feeling that you can't get in the quote unquote real world, even though it's all an
Yeah.
illusion and it's all fake.
Yeah. I can't imagine you being like that, by the way. Like,
Oh, thanks. Me
you
neither.
do not
It's like,
you do not seem like narcissistic in any sense of the word. So,
thanks,
you
Kelly,
know,
but I was totally a different person. It's literally like I'm living out the second half of my life as a different person, but it's really two different people. And even talking about this and remembering, I'm like, did that really happen? Like, yeah, I really was, but I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know any better, and I was encouraged by
yeah.
my parents, to be that way, to go up the levels. Did your dad ever want you to kind of you're an SP, so can you go up the bridge? Or was it just strictly ethics handling to get you the fuck out of the house? What was the end goal with you, with your family?
It wasn't to go up the bridge for sure. It was definitely to handle me and sort of keep me in line somehow. Even though, like, I'm not being funny, I was not like going and doing drugs and drinking with my friends underage and sneaking out of the house. Do you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
wasn't doing anything like that. So I don't know what they needed to keep me in line with specifically. Um, yeah, I had a course offered to me at St. Hill when my parents went there. It was overcoming ups and downs. And,
Right, right.
of course. Oh, is that your British accent? That's pretty good.
That's terrible. Never do a British accent
So
in front of someone who's actually British.
it wasn't
But
bad. It wasn't bad.
thank you.
So yeah, I did this course. Sorry, I got offered this course My parents did buy it, but the registrar wanted me to do it. She
Mhm.
was, they're like,
Has to be
you need
your
to,
thing, Kelly.
yes,
You have to want it,
exactly.
even though if you don't do it, we're gonna beat the shit out of you.
Literally. And I was sat there, big ornate room, wooden furniture, like very, very bougie. And we've got my parents on either side of me. And I was like, right, so Kelly, the registrar, it's like, yes, so we really, let me try to do my best
Go
impression.
ahead, go ahead. This is great. This is great.
Like, we really think this course, could help you out because, in life, you're not supposed to be, too happy. No, you're not supposed to be too sad. Really, you're supposed to be like this. And they did that with their arms.
It all makes
Yeah.
sense.
And I think you should take this decision and do this course. I think it'd be so great for you. So do you want to do it? I'm like, well, I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to lie because lying is bad. They really want me to do it. I do not want to do it. So I'm in a predicament, I'm in a real predicament. I'm like, do I be honest and get in trouble? Or do I do it and fail and then get in trouble anyway? I chose to be honest. And I was just like,
Oh, that's what got you in trouble.
listen. I was like, listen, look, I don't think I'm a Scientologist, is what I said.
Oh,
I don't think I'm a Scientologist. I don't really think this course is my kind of thing. It's a lot of money. They ended up paying like £600 for this book and some for my brothers. Don't think it's for me. It's a lot of money. I'm gonna leave it. And they were like, turned to my parents and we should get her on this course though. And they bought it. They paid for it there and then. At St. Hill, get marched down to the library with this stupid book in my hand with a stupid staircase on it. I'm like, this is not it. Sit down and run away. That's what I did. Sat down with the book, waited for them to bugger off, took my brothers, and I said, like, let's get out of here. This is going to be the most boring afternoon otherwise. Like, let's
good
go.
for you. You're really,
Left the
really
books.
rebellious, though. You took a huge
Left the
chance.
books. Yeah, that was honestly, that day was the last time we were ever at St. Hill. Like, I don't know if there were any repercussions from it. I don't know what the situation was. I had a great day. I know every inch of those grounds now. We've spent all day out there.
You weren't worried about what was going to happen when you got home with your parents about blowing?
I didn't care because at the end of the day, I'd been honest and I'd said I didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I had said that, and I was like, you were there, and I said it if I needed to, but it didn't come to it. So.
The way my parents would do it, they would sit me down and they would have me offload if I had a problem with a girlfriend, or I was getting in trouble all the time because I would kind of act out the black sheep that they thrust on me. So I might as well be that. So they would have me be honest and open and listen, and then they would tagline it at the very end and say, now don't freak out, Doug, because they knew I didn't because I was being manipulated every time they do this. You want to be punished for a month, or do you want to just take a quick course that we'll pay for a week? And so many times, Kelly, I told them, use expletive words. I would slam the door. It would just drive me so crazy. So I was upfront with them, more than upfront, that I not only didn't want to be a Scientologist, but I fucking hated it. And I have a feeling if I was with your parents, it might have been a little more brutal, but my parents were very slippery on not giving me, because they were trying to grant beingness. They didn't want to force it on me like you're told in Scientology, but they don't realize that they're manipulating me, because the tech teaches you how to manipulate other people to get into it, especially other family members and kids and stuff. So it's just really weird listening to our stories that, we're a pond apart, Kelly, but when it comes, and you're British, I'm American, and there's all sorts of different people that you see, but we all have this one moon batshit crazy thing in common, Scientology. And the story is so universally the same about kind of how it all works. Our folks buy into it, and we're spiritual beings, and it's just a father-daughter game. And if you don't take to it, we will keep manipulating you and trying over and over. They never give up, do they, Kelly? They're like, were your parents like pit bulls? Scientologists are pit bulls. They always want to help their kid and never give up, right?
Yeah. And you're never being punished. You're being helped.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You're in ethics. You're doing this because it's going to help you in the end.
Right.
Allegedly,
And I think I can't speak for your dad, Kelly, but my dad believed that. And it was about when I finally took to it by getting hypnotized one time by doing the book and bottle exercise. I had my first major win, and I said, dad, I'm not totally convinced yet, but thank you so much for pushing me through this. All the times that I would rebel and tell you to fuck off and slam the door, I finally understand what you're talking about. Thank you for fucking caring enough to get me to have my first major win. And then I started to become addicted to it.
Yeah.
Longer story, but you never had any wins. You never had any kind of auditing or any kind of course that you were able to have go into that electrified hypnosis or anything? Well,
No,
probably not, because it was just pure, you're evil, you're the SP,
no.
and it was all ethics handlings. Didn't your
I'd met
parents
like
want you to have a taste of
OT8s
it?
and stuff. Well, I don't know, actually. I think they probably thought I was doomed in some regard because of
Right,
my
right, right.
status. But
Wow.
like I had met OT8s and stuff. They walk around Saint Hill, they're peppy,
Yeah,
they're living their life. I do not remember seeing any single Matilda level superpowers
me
ever.
neither.
And that's what I thought was, there was some sort of superpowerness about it. Was it paranormal or whatever, but you could do things if
Mhm.
you got to this top. And I remember just being like, well, where are all these people with their superpowers? Like, show me the Iron Man of Scientology, and I am in. But it just never happened. So yeah,
Did you
it's
ever
easy
ask
to
your
believe
dad?
the idea of it, but
Yeah, to believe the idea, because I believed it too, and I was like, when I was in high school, my dad was on OT3, I'm like, "Well, he's not gonna." The excuse they use, and any cult guru says this, that's not the point of it, these superpowers that we promise you, if we were to show them out in public, we don't wanna freak out people and stuff. That's what Ron would say in one of his policies, where you don't demonstrate these things. That's very Homo sap. That's very
mm.
Homo sapien. These abilities
Oh,
are
the voice there was
oh,
a
let me give
lot.
you a
I
go
was
ahead lecture here. No, I've never seen anybody except for one guy, Kelly. I don't remember what his name was. Do an actual L. Ron Hubbard impression. I can't get anywhere near it, but his voice is so hard to actually
It's
duplicate.
not a million miles away though. Like
Oh, thanks.
it
Maybe a rough
spooked me
thing.
then. It
Oh
did, it
shit.
spooked me. It's
Thank you,
good.
or I'm sorry. I don't know what to say, but
No, it's fine. I thought he was back from Target 2 for a minute then.
well, we do have Elron in the audience actually, and he said that he was gonna drop down from Target 2 specifically because you were coming on today, Kelly, and he has to
Oh,
handle you.
well,
Do you
thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I'll
it.
see. No problem. We'll see if he's in the chat. So Kelly, when did you finally kind of start to, after you cannot, no matter what, take to what your parents want you to do, you're walking on
Mhm.
eggshells, nothing you can do is right. Did they eventually decide that you were a past life clear, or they decide that you were definitely a demon as you started to get older? And how did they handle you?
Definitely not a past life clear. Definitely
Right,
full-time demon.
right.
Yeah. Um,
Full-time demon. Look at you though. When
full-time.
you say you can't believe me, how could your parents think you're a demon, man? I'm sure you're the same sweet, outgoing girl. How are they looking at you as a kid like this? And actually, in their mind, how did they see you weren't even doing anything? You said you didn't do drugs. You weren't getting into trouble. You weren't being
No.
arrested.
I
What
was
in their
loud. I
head?
will say that. I
Were
was
you too
always very loud.
enthusiastic? Were you
Yeah,
too happy?
very.
And that's what pissed them off, maybe?
I think so. I've always been a bit like that, and I've wanted to, put on shows and read them my stories that I wrote at school
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So it did demand a lot of attention. Like I've really wanted some love and some validation from them. So I would almost over egg it, to try and get that from them. Which it just didn't come. So um yeah, I remember coming home from school with like a poem I had wrote and I used the word alas and I was like, 7 or 8 or something and I was really
Nice.
proud. I was like, that's a big
Nice.
word. That is a word that we don't normally use, but I found it and it's about Shakespeare and I'm going to put it in this poem and it's going to make awesome sense. And I was so excited about it. They were like, you obviously stole this poem. You didn't write this yourself. I
Oh
was
my
like, I
gosh.
did, it was so annoying. So yeah, I would definitely over egg it, but no, full-time demon.
Wow.
You
Obviously.
know,
So obvious now. I
yeah,
mean, it
and my dad basically after this, SP thing happened, he was like, okay, I am going to take it on myself with all of the knowledge I have learned to get rid of this SP because I can technically disconnect from you without disconnecting from you. You know, like this was the weird third option that I mentioned earlier. You know, and he basically told me he had read a book called History of Man. I don't know if you read it.
Lord.
I have not
Yes,
read it.
I have.
I have not read it, but in there it says something along the lines of, you know, if you're having a bad, if you're a bad person or an SP or something, you have like 6 degraded beings in your person, right? You have 6 of them at least. I could be completely off base, but this is what he said. So he thought, well, if I can replace one of these beings, because he said he heard stories of OTs like gaining new skills and new languages because they, you know, got rid of bad Thetans and took in Thetans that were like, you know, Spanish in another life. So he then could learn. I don't know how it
No,
works,
no,
but
I'm kind of tracking. I'm kind of tracking.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, he basically from that book created his own exorcism for me, which was literally just me and him using his tone 40, you know, pure intention, full command thing to, you know, yell at these degraded beings to get them off of me, out of me, or whatever, to hope that a nice being would have taken its place.
Preferably Spanish.
Preferably Spanish, you know, get a new language in there. Could you
Why
imagine?
not?
I just come out and I'm like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Like,
Or you start speaking in tongues and spinning around and shit, and they go, "We knew
oh,
she was a demon, but look at the new language she learned." Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my god, too funny. This is
Yeah, and I
so
don't
ludicrous.
honestly, I can, and he thought, oh well, you know, if I can get rid of this bad date, and then I'm technically disconnecting from the SP because
Wow.
I yelled the SP away with my tone 40. So yeah, that is how that went down.
Holy
Which
shit.
is, you know, it's bizarre. I wasn't even sure if it really happened. Like, it's one of the first things I asked him when we started talking again, because I was just like, hey, you know, how imagine having this conversation with your dad, guys. But I was like, so I can remember having an exorcism. Did that really happen, or am I making it up? And he was like, no, that happened. I did it. And I was like,
Wow.
fuck me, man. Like, so yeah, it's that's how that happened, and it obviously didn't work. I didn't learn Spanish. I was still an SP, and you know, I was then therefore handled for the rest of, you know, my childhood. It was all about you know, confessing my crimes regularly because I would always be doing crimes because I
Of
was an SP.
course.
It's just in my nature. And confessing on the e-meter, making amends, being my family's cleaning assistant, basically.
Slave,
Um, yeah, and looking after my brothers and stuff, you know.
which they should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, like I think I said at the beginning of this, but my mum was an alcoholic, you know. She
Yeah.
was up drinking all night and she'd be asleep till 4 p.m. Like, my dad had a job. So, you know, they needed looking after, and I had to do that, which, you know, obviously I'm so glad I could be there for them. And I've said it before, but it's the one thing I proper regretted when I got kicked out was that I couldn't be there for them. I couldn't even talk to them anymore because they weren't allowed to. They were not allowed to talk to me because my mum was like, oh, if you talk to her, like, the reason I've got rid of her is because she makes me want to unalive myself, you know. And it's she threatened it. She threatened it to them.
Really?
So they wouldn't dare even talk to me. We went to the same school. We went to the same school and we were not allowed to speak. And it was heartbreaking. And eventually, you know, this blame game, it shifted to them. It shifted to them. I couldn't protect them. I couldn't even be there to do anything about it. You know, I found out afterwards, after the fact. You know, and it's, you know, I know it sounds like such a hot fucking mess and stuff, and you know, my mum is out of the picture. Like, she is gone to, you know, live somewhere up north, not been in contact with any of us. My littlest brother, he'd never want to speak to her again. Like, and neither do I. And at least my dad is trying to do something. You know, he's tried to have communication. I've been very I've not been easy on him. Do you know what I mean? I've
Yeah,
not been
yeah.
easy on him with how we go forward with this stuff, because it's difficult. It's really, really hard. You know, it's hard to see him in person. It's hard to look at his face. You know, it's it's really hard. But I appreciate him trying whatever he's trying. He's trying to figure it out and, you know, come to a I don't know, a new place. You know, a new place with it. I don't think we can ever have a, you know, you're my dad thing, because it just hasn't been there. But do I want him to heal from this? Absolutely. You know, I want him to heal from this. And I think, you know, he needs to be able to explain it as well, explain what's happened and stuff. So, yeah, it's really tricky. And I'm sorry if that sounded a bit convoluted and messy, but
No,
it
not
is.
at all, Kelly. Thanks for sharing that. And if your dad, I don't know if he's listening or not. I don't want to say anything bad, but you know, at least he's making an effort. I couldn't even
Yeah.
get my parents to pick up the phone at a certain point. So
Yeah.
at least he's making an effort. Has he said flat out, he's not a Scientologist anymore, right, Kelly? Is he an
Yeah.
indie Scientologist? Does he still believe in the tech? Did he go through any deprogramming and or psychotherapy? What was his exit process like?
Yeah, so I'll be completely honest. I think
Mhm.
he's still deprogramming from it now. Like, he did leave when I was about 14, he left Scientology. You know, this was a full 2 years before I even got kicked out. And a lot of that mindset and stuff still sticks with him, I think. And
Mhm.
he is trying to deprogram it now because he's not really ever talked to anyone about it. Like, you know, he might have spoke to my brothers about it a bit. He will have spoke to my mum about it and maybe some of his family, but he's never had a therapist. You know, he's not gone down that kind of a route. The first thing I did when I got back in touch with him was like, you should go to the pub, watch the football, and make some friends. Like, just see who's around and get chatting and see if, you know, you could get along with some people. Because when you're in Scientology, you can't have non-Scientology friends. So when you leave, your social circle is gone. You know, like, I think when, you know, I don't know if you have to do this in America, but do you have to have a witness to sign your passports when you get a new one?
I don't think so. I got my passport with no witness.
Well, in the UK, we have to have like a witness when we sign the thing that says it was really us that's applying for the passport, whatever.
Mhm.
Like, my parents had to get the postman to be their witness because that's the only person that had known them long enough
Wow.
out after they had left Scientology, because they just didn't have any mates, like, at all. And always found that really sad, to be honest. And I still hope that, you know, they all go and make some friends with some people. You know, he's a bit of a conspiracy theorist now, I think.
Oh, good. We get on
But
just fine. Yeah, but a lot of people leave Scientology and go into QAnon or something, which is another cul-de-sac. That's another story for another time. And and also Scientology pushes massive conspiracy. You know, it's the 12 families and it's the Xenu, this and that, and Hubbard. You know, I think he was kind of tuned in on government shit quite a bit, but at the same time, he felt like everybody was after him because of some grand conspiracy when actually he was a con artist running away from people and making shit up to justify to his flock how it has to be a conspiracy. So he didn't have to take responsibility.
yeah,
How long ago did your dad leave, Kelly? Like, are we talking recently or a while ago?
he left. Right, so I keep dropping my earphones. I'm 28
Mhm.
and he left when I was 14. So that's 14 years ago, right?
And he just wrote you recently? Have you had contact with him at all here and there?
Yeah, he wrote me in sorry, I'm trying to subtly pick my headphone up with my feet.
Oh, okay. Well,
There we go.
you can do what you
No,
need
I
to
get
do to
it.
grab
I
it.
get it.
Nice. Nice. Smooth.
Thanks. What was he saying? Oh yeah, so when I was 14, he left. which was 14 years ago. What year would that be? 2009. 2009,
Sounds about
I
right.
think. Yeah. He had basically like looked online. He had not been getting like wins and stuff. He said he listened to a bunch of the lectures, and every single time it just wasn't making sense anymore. Like he would debunk himself throughout the lectures, L. Ron, of course. So I can't talk too much about that, but he looked on the forums and stuff. He went online, he looked down all of that stuff, the forbidden merchants of chaos content.
Right.
And
Which can
he
be
was out, and
scary.
he requested a refund. He asked
Really?
it. Yeah, he
Wow. Good
requested a
for him.
refund. He didn't get it, of course, but he did request it. They could have outlasted them in court and stuff, so there would have been no
Yeah.
way that he would have taken that. But they did give about £250,000
Wow.
to the church. So he just wanted to try and get that back, I guess. And he did it like he was a landlord for a bit. He ran like a tech business. Sometimes he was gambling, and that money would just go to them. Crazy stuff. But yeah, they left it and they just talked to each other, to be honest, about it. They might have reached out to some exes. I don't actually know. Read some books. I think Piece of Blue Sky is the one my dad always talks about a lot. He likes that one. So yeah, I think
Good for him.
that's
Good for him. So he doesn't sound like he's going the indie route. He's making an attempt to reach out with his daughter. I assume that, I mean, does he have any contact with your mom, Kelly, or did that kind of dissolve and she went away?
I'm honestly don't think so. I assume he has a number for her if he wanted to be in touch. I don't think he is. They divorced quite a few years ago now. For a time she actually moved into my old bedroom in the house we were living
Really?
in. I don't know how she could do that. It's like, that's insane. But they split, and she moved away. She said that she wanted, a new house, a new family, a new baby, and a boob job was her specific requests.
Wow.
And she also decided to like diagnose my dad as autistic at one point, which
Oh, really?
his mum, my grandma, she's not with us anymore, rest her soul, but she was a mental health nurse and looked after like learning disabled people all day every day. She would have known if her own kid had something like that. And my mum sent her a letter like, he's ruined my life, blah blah blah, he's got this autism thing. And I was just like, the nerve.
I
The
know. She
nerve.
sounds quite narcissistic and unable to take
Literally,
responsibility.
my grandma told me about it. She had me in absolute stitches. She's just like, well, I've got this letter, Kelly, and I'm not really sure what to do with it. She explained it to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do you even do with that? I was like, you need to just ignore it. She was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna.
So your mom, with this crazy family, not crazy because your brother sounded the same, but would you say your mom was kind of the one that was the real one with the mental health issues and the problem,
Yeah.
and perhaps your dad and you and everybody were dancing around the alcoholic? This is what an alcoholic in general can often do to a family.
Yeah, there was that eggshell things. My dad was trying to keep her happy and, stop her flipping out quite a lot, which made him quite passive in, some of the things that she would be doing to us as well. She could be quite violent, and you could never bring it up, especially if she did it when she was drunk, because she would just be like,
Right.
that never happened. Like, so that stuff was really difficult to navigate. And, I wouldn't get back up if I challenged her about it. My dad wouldn't back me up with that when that stuff happened. So yeah, we did all dance around her a bit. She would just do some very bizarre things. Like she would sometimes she'd wake me up for obviously the e-meters, but sometimes she'd be like, it's 4 a.m. Come on, wake up. We're going to the park.
Oh my God.
She's hammered. Like, she is
Oh my
absolutely
God.
hammered. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, okay. So you go with, and you're like, this is dangerous. Like, even as a kid, I was like, this is dangerous. She also used to do things like pretending to be possessed.
Why? For
To
sympathy, or just why would she do that?
She would say that I can't believe I'm actually going to tell you this story. It's so fucked up, Doug. Okay.
Only if you want to, Kelly. You don't have
No,
to if you don't want
I could
to.
tell you. I could tell you. So she would pretend to be this alter ego, right? Alter ego's name was Lisa. That's what she would call this person. She'd be like, I'm here because you guys have not been like shown enough love or care for your mum, so she's gone now. She's never coming back.
Wow.
And she would literally, my little brothers would be in tears. Like, I was like, I think it's fake.
Oh
I'm
my
pretty
God. What an
sure it's
evil
fake.
thing to do. What an
Yeah.
evil thing to
And
do.
she tried to explain it to my brothers when they got older, because they obviously were like, what the fuck was that possession shit you used to do? And she was like, well, I was just testing you to see if you really cared about me or not. I was just like, right, I can't even
She's,
follow your logic. I don't even understand how that would occur to you to do that as
yep.
a way to test it.
No
You know,
shit. No normal,
insane, but
non-narcissistic person mother would ever do that. That's,
yeah,
oh my God. She sounds pretty manipulative in terms of getting attention and blaming things on you. I mean, maybe she was partly responsible for driving your dad half nuts. I'm glad they're apart.
yeah,
Kelly, as we wind down here, I wanted to kind of end on a positive note. First of all, thanks for, being open and funny and just, I'm just so they couldn't break your spirit no matter what. A less soulful person, an artistic person, I think would have been crushed in your environment, not come out on the other end. And I know you went through a whole dark night of the soul to try to
yes,
rebuild yourself. And I'm sure that you're still dealing with the residual aspects of that, as your dad is. And I hope that does, come around. I have one question on your father, and then to end on a positive note, if you can give people what got you through the dark night of the soul and those dark nights. What were some of the tools that you could possibly put out there that might help other people that are listening in similar situations? But the question that I wanted
yeah.
to ask on your dad real quick before that, did he ever apologize to you?
Yes, he has apologized to me via message. He's apologized to me. He kind of explained himself, which I asked for. I asked him to explain sort of his journey and his experience and things, and I've been encouraging him to do it because I was like, look, a lot of ex-Scientologists write books, right? There must be something therapeutic in writing after you've left something like this. He apologized in that. And I forgave him. I forgave him. I
Wow,
want him to
really?
heal from this. Yeah, I want him to heal from this, and I want him to move forward. And it gives me no joy to hold on to the hurt of it. I'm not my trauma. I'm not what happened to me at all. So, um, I think it's important to like share it and raise awareness about it and stuff. But I just want him to like learn from this and heal from it as well, because it's a long time. The guy's in his 50s now as well, and I'm just like, listen, like, um you've got the rest of your life. Why, don't be secluded and hidden away and with no friends. Like, that's my biggest thing. I'm just like, go, please get friends.
That's so
um
sad. Does he really not have any mates, Kelly? Has he?
I think he's getting to know one of his neighbors a bit, so we're getting there. But he has his own business and works alone. So yeah, I just hope it continues to improve for him. It
I do
seems to
too.
have been us talking and stuff. I can see things getting a little bit better and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad to see it. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Do you have a certain arm's length distance too, where you don't want to put trust back in him and he kind of has to
Yeah.
earn it so you don't get hurt and fall down again, you know?
Yeah, forgiveness is not the same as trust, you know?
Mhm.
Forgiveness is letting it go and allowing someone to move forward. Even in these interviews, I don't hold any grudges towards them. I try and laugh about it more,
Mhm.
But yeah, there's a definite trust to be earned for sure.
Do you think that's part of what made you a strong person and the boundaries that you have today and kind of able to take care of yourself? Do you feel like it hardened you up in any particular way or made you? I'm not justifying the abuse at all, not even slightly, Kelly. But because you went through it, do you feel? I mean, you went through some extreme situations. You were booted out of the house at 16. You were living in basically a crack house, not knowing what the hell to do.
Yeah.
Everything that you went through, did it make you stronger than if you hadn't been so challenged, do you think, as a youngster, or would you take it back if you could?
Hmm. You know what? I also always think there's like a double-edged sword to it, like
Mhm.
there is a level of resilience you develop for sure. I think that's true of anyone that goes through some kind of trauma, but there also becomes you have to reestablish what your boundaries are and what normal behavior is and all of that kind of thing. There's the yes, there is a strength that you can develop if you're lucky. And because you have to, it's survival.
Right.
There isn't really, when people say that to me, like, oh, you're so strong,
You're
I'm
so
like,
brave. You have
I
I had
just
to.
lived through it. That's all that
Right.
happened, and that's
Exactly.
not to diss anyone that said that. I appreciate it. It's very sweet, but
I know exactly
I
what you're
didn't have a
talking about,
choice.
Kelly. Same here.
um, yeah, and then so you get that kind of resilience, but on the other side, uh, you can also have a lot of trust issues, relationship problems, doubt, self-doubt, and you know uh, trying to navigate who you are in the world and getting, like I said, reconnecting with yourself and what you are about outside of your trauma. So yeah, double-edged sword is my answer to that question.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I'd say. In regards healing and stuff, I wanted to show people your channel, Kelly.
Okay.
Have you gotten a lot of it's a real bold step to actually put yourself out like this. And you did a whole series right here called Scientology Iceberg Explained. By the way, guys,
Hmm.
before I forget, link in the description box to Kelly Copter's channel. I highly recommend subbing
Dude.
to her channel. Not that she needs any more. I mean, you're almost up to 10K here. Congratulations, by the way, because we
Whoop, whoop.
started at the same time, Kelly. I remember when your videos came out, this iceberg series. I'm like, who's this new gal? And how the hell does she edit so well? And holy shit, this story is like really powerful. What did it take to get you? This is part of like what would you advise other people if you were encouraging them, or is there a certain point in your healing process where you felt it was necessary to actually speak out about this so openly, or did you feel like you hit a point like what was the impetus to do something that's really hard to put yourself out there
Yeah.
just in public in general, let alone talking about this and what your family might say as a reaction back at you?
Yeah, I mean, I was already on YouTube before I was doing obviously this
Yeah, but
Scientology
not
stuff.
Scientology stuff. Yeah.
No, not Scientology stuff. It was lockdown. I was bored. I was, making myself look like a lizard. I was just doing stupid videos to keep me entertained, and I didn't have loads of traction or anything. I was just, having a good time doing that. And my dad then got in touch with me. Thank you, Lydia Von Stretchclaw. My dad got in touch with me, and I asked him some questions. I was like, "Look, we haven't spoke for 10 years. If we are talking, I have got some questions for you, buddy. Like, we need to get to the bottom of this cult thing." Because it's the one thing that I never really got to talk about, and because lockdown made us all stop and it, work stopped,
Yeah.
everything stopped. I was having like, flashbacks. I don't want to use the term lightly because it wasn't light, but I was having flashbacks of all this stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what even happened? Like I've never even really spoke to anyone about this. A couple of therapists a bit, but they don't all understand cults. They
No,
don't
they
really,
don't.
they don't really get it. So I thought I'd ask him about it. And then when he told me some of the stuff that he told me, hello Denver,
Hey,
um,
Denver.
he I was like, oh my gosh, I need to share this, because what if there's someone else that was like me? What if there's someone else out there that doesn't understand what the hell happened and why they were an SP and made to feel like this? Because I'm sure I'm not the only child SP out there. I'm
No,
sure I'm not.
no.
So I was just like, look, I also wanted to understand a bit more about this cult, because my ideas on it, I knew some of the terms. I knew about the ethics, I knew about the e-meter, I knew some of these things, but not all of it. So I literally was like, right, this whole thing is a big fat mess, and I need to look at it, look at it all as if all the cards are on the table. So I wanted to look at I put my experience into a video, and then I tried to break down the levels, the the crimes, the money side of things, the front groups, their views on psychiatry. I just wanted to lay it all down in a video format. So I chose the iceberg, because it is an iceberg. Ironically, I think the crime stuff is the stuff that's at the bottom, but the Scientologists actually don't know about. It's a weird reverse thing there.
Right. But they intertwine too, Kelly, because it is kind of a crossover between true crime and cults, especially when it comes to the criminal cult of Scientology. They're basically the same subject. And someone, she will be putting up more content. I don't want to give any surprises away, but let's just say she's got many videos sitting on the shelf, and there's definitely interesting stuff coming up. Is there anything, guys, if you have any questions, throw them out now. I'm going to throw up a few comments that I started along the way. And if they appertain, Kelly, you can perhaps respond. Hey, Marilyn, how are you? You and Marilyn are good friends, right, Kelly? I mean,
yeah,
right?
I adore Marilyn. She is a good egg, as I would say.
She is. And Marilyn's been through hell and back, and is just like you, just the most empathic person. It's amazing that you guys come out on the other side of what you both have been through. Kelly, I love how you averted the SO by telling them you were going to be a famous singer, right? That we didn't get to cover that. Kelly, that's great, Marilyn. Thanks for bringing that up. Kelly, do you mind real quick sharing? So you got an SP declare at 6, and then wasn't it around what, 12, where they snookered you into some bullshit where you didn't even know you were going to be hit up with the contract, and you're like, yeah. But it's a good.
Yeah, we had like OT8s come down to our house. My mum needed some help for her issues, right? And they suggested to my dad, like, oh, she could do this like 1-week course for troubled teens, which is
terrifying.
on the ship, whatever. That's not what happened though. They took me off to the side, gave me this contract, told me it would be like, I think they said like a year or 2 years. It was a long time.
Wait, Kelly, did your parents snooker you into this BS? Were they sold the same lie? How was it introduced to you? Was it
were
your parents
OT8s
in on
told
it?
me.
Oh, the old
No,
via your parents, or what? They just showed up at your house. Hey, we're OT8s, and you're going off to summer camp.
No, they were invited. It's like vampires. You got to be invited in.
Right. So your parents brought him in.
Yeah.
But what I mean, Kelly,
they were
is
there to help my mum. They weren't there for me,
Oh,
but
okay.
they had mentioned about this little, 1-week course or whatever.
I see. So your parents weren't in on it. They weren't trying to bullshit you.
No. And then when they took me off to the side on my own, completely on my own, by the way, they had this billion-year thing. And I was like, what the hell? And they basically was like, look, it's a big commitment. Billion years is a long time. Yeah. And I was like, you see, it's not really going to work for me, because I'm going to become a famous singer soon. And, I ain't got time to do this stuff on the boat. And then they literally changed their tune immediately. They were like, well, we have festivals, all of the celebrities, you'll get to meet them all, blah, blah, blah. And just something in my stomach was like, this feels weird. I was like, it feels weird. It feels like I'm being tricked or something. And I had a gut feeling about it, and I declined and said no. But had I said yes, I reckon I would have been in that car that night and gone,
Yep.
So I am grateful for my delusional, my delusional
You're not
sense
delusional.
of self.
Anybody who's seen you sing, especially about Zero Dark Tony, you have an amazing voice, Kelly. And I know you're being modest. I mean, I'm sure you guys, one in the chat
Oh,
if you've heard
thanks,
her, if
dude.
you've seen her shorts. If not, go check them out. Two in the chat if you haven't. You have an
I do
amazing
have
singing voice. And I
over
love that
here.
you used it to strike back.
ZDK lives on a little.
No
She
shit.
lives.
When did you?
She,
What the fuck? Wait,
she just
when?
lives on a little mannequin when I need to get her out. She just
Oh
lives
my
on the
God.
side.
You have just racked up one guaranteed video from ZDT. No, you know what? He won't go after you. I hate to bring this guy up even. People still emailing me about him to this day.
I don't think he
He won't
likes
go
my
after
songs.
you and he won't go after Marisa. So apparently you gals have either scared him into a corner or he's currently watching and he's like, I take on the challenge. So I'm surprised he didn't go after you because those videos were brilliant. Kelly like threw up your video and then he didn't comment on it and he didn't even bother to play it because it's fucking epic. And I think he would have
I
liked
wanted
it.
a response.
I
Like I
know.
thought he was gonna, because he sings as well. So I was like, oh,
I
brilliant! Like
know.
maybe
I know he's in a
maybe he
he's in a
can sing
band,
a verse.
which
He
isn't
can sing
half
a
bad.
verse back.
And you
That would be
guys
cool.
might end up forming a band together and let bygones be
Exactly.
bygones. Tony, the possibilities are enormous. So please do a respond back video. She was kind enough to do one to you. Sing back to her, my friend. Oh my God.
Please.
No, please don't. That's a really important point you make though, Kelly. Like the one thing that kept me from signing that contract, they would take me to the top of Celebrity Center and they would
Yeah.
say, now, Doug, you're getting close to 30. You haven't made it yet. You ain't no Tom Cruise. I mean, really beating me down and having me look out over all of Los Angeles and say, all these people need your help. Now, you know that the Sea Org is the most dedicated and you can waste your time paying for your bridge and, maxing out your credit cards and mortgaging, your pet dog or whatever to get onto the bridge. But this is where it all leads to. I mean, it was cycles like that, Kelly, being locked in a room. Like I said, you're not going to make it, Doug. And look at all these people that need your help. And I really felt like a piece of shit as a public. And I really did feel guilty because I looked up.
I'm
We
not
don't know.
surprised.
We don't know.
They're telling
Kelly,
you
I
your
didn't know
life's
that.
not important. What you want is not important. What we want for you is important.
But I agree with them, though, because I felt like a piece of shit public when I would see these people working their ass off, doing the impossible as Sea Org members. And Kelly, I didn't know they were starving. I didn't know they put on plastic faces and to the public and can't tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. I didn't learn what was going on behind the scenes, even in the public mission that I went to, until I
Yeah.
started talking to Marcus Sawyer, who worked there and gave me a lot of intel. As a
Yeah.
public member, when I drank the Kool-Aid, I would say this isn't just my experience, but we look up to the Sea Org. They do the impossible. They have no case on post. They can make anything happen. So I felt guilty as shit. And the only thing that kept me from signing that was as a fucking artist, man. And I always knew it. And I was like, I might not make it. I'd go home crying sometimes because I was already hard making it as an actor and they would beat me
Yeah.
down. And I knew they were right. But that was the one thing they couldn't take out of me. I think everybody has their one thing that might snap them out of Scientology, or they can't quite, they can take a lot of things, our family and our
Yeah.
mind, but there's a
Absolutely.
piece of us that might mean something to us. Like for Marty Rathbun, the one thing that he wouldn't put up with is being in the hole and being in prison. And he said that was his line. So he could put up with everything, but as soon as and that might just be a personal thing for Marty, wanting to be the top dog. Who knows? And he since, who knows what happened to him, right? But I'm just saying, everybody had their
Think
line.
he'll ever
Marty,
come back?
you never know with Marty. He's been so unpredictable that I could just see him coming back into the indie field. Five. No, I think he's kind of gone and perhaps like a pallet or whatever. But my point being is that he didn't want to go to be in prison. They weren't going to take my acting away, and you knew you were going to be a famous singer, and that's what kept you from signing that fucking contract. And you have a whole different story
Yeah.
to tell that one day because if they get you to sign that off, you would have went, and it would have been hard to get the fuck out of there. I mean, just ask the
Yeah.
Headleys and everyone else that's I mean, he had to roll out of there in a motorcycle. I mean,
I would have been on the back of Mark's bike. I'd be like, see you later,
hell
guys.
yeah, hell
I would have
yeah.
had a blow story instead of this story. You know what? I don't think they'd ever be able to keep hold of me, to be honest.
I don't
It
think
was
so either.
not.
I don't think they ever had a chance with you in the beginning, Kelly. It was just surviving it because you were always going to stick to your guns. It sounded like, I mean, you did on come hell or high water, and it was just surviving it so you can get. Well, I mean, you got emancipated whether you liked it or not at 16, and at least
Yeah.
you got away from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though it was hard, it was actually probably the best thing for me at the time,
Really? You think so?
Yeah, like, I was, even though I was by myself, that stress of what was going to
Yeah.
happen when I got home, it
Yeah.
went away. It was gone. And, I had a different adult that was my guardian, my parents signed over, who they'd never met
That's
also,
crazy. But she was
you know.
really helpful, right? Wasn't she like a savior that you're
Yeah.
still communicating with today? And she
Yeah,
was
she was a teacher, mentor, taught me music and stuff, and she's great, like, absolutely amazing, and we're
awesome.
still, like, best mates to this day, I
That's
spent
amazing.
Christmas with her and,
That's so amazing.
yeah, she's awesome, and, it's nice when even in times where things are really difficult, it's like I still felt loved, and it was amazing to have that. It was really amazing.
Did it amaze you that one of the biggest trips coming out of the cult was how helpful and loving normal non-Scientologists were? It would make me cry, Kelly, because I didn't have to exchange with them. I still have a problem to this day accepting help. I mean, big time. I always have to do it on my own. And it makes me freaking tear up when because most humans that are not Scientologists are pretty decent people. And it's so not like Scientology where everything was exchange oriented. I mean, Kelly, there'd be days I couldn't get food. I was homeless. It was a real adventure. And
Yeah,
it was the niceness of people that could sense that actually helped me without wanting anything in return. That still trips me out to this day because it's been beaten into me. But people are so, so loving that are not Scientologists in general.
yeah,
Did you, I guess, to close off, one of the things I was missing before the dialogue on Scientology really hit the field with Going Clear and Leah Remini's show. I didn't really have friends that I could connect with or that didn't understand or they didn't want to listen to it. How did you or how would you recommend people that, because I know there's people listening, Kelly, or that are going to come across this video and they're going to be in the same position I was where they can't talk out. They go, oh, I wish I could, you know, get to where these people are at.
yeah.
They're, having problems with their family. They can't speak. They're under the radar. How did you go about getting friends and outside people that you can talk to when you're such a fish out of water and an alien to other people? How do you make and bridge that connection when you might feel like you're in a black hole with no way out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you felt at some point.
I would say if you've got like any kind of like hobby or something, this is going to sound so random, but it is a good way. If you've got something that you're passionate about, whether it's music or a band, or if you've got bands you love, go see them, talk to people, try and make new friends. I would say lots of different communities exist on the internet, in different hobby fields. Like this Scientology little niche is a teeny tiny corner of
Right.
the internet. It's so small.
Good
Like
point.
there's so many other things out there for absolutely anything you can think of. There is a guy who just chops wood on YouTube, just all day. He
Really?
just chops wood. Yeah. There is a guy who rates takeaways. He sets up his little table, has a takeaway outside of it, and he rates it. And that's his whole channel. There's little communities for everything. So, don't be afraid to talk to people. Not everyone is lovely and nice. Let me just say
That's
that.
very
They're
true
not.
too. We do have predators in our midst in the normal world too.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I would just say, find some sort of community thing that you can actually talk to people. That's not a cult. I'm talking like community
No, no.
sports, or like something in your town, like that's not a religion. Like go play football or something, or whatever. Try and find yeah, some friends. When it comes to opening up about this stuff, it's difficult. There's
Hmm.
lots of people online in this space who are open and willing to hear people out. I put myself there included. I have my email address out there so that people can message me. Can I promise you I'm gonna
I know.
fix everything? No, I cannot. Can I hear you out? Yeah, always. So there's many people like that. So yeah, that's what I would say. If you are thinking about maybe chatting to someone about it, I won't film it, and many people won't. There's lots of people you can talk to and just have a conversation, and it doesn't have to be about, oh well, you're going to be doing an interview on my channel then, right?
Right.
No one
Right.
will force you to do anything like that if you do not feel comfortable or ready or anything. So
Thanks for that, Kelly. And I know that you're
you're welcome.
speaking from the heart and you're sincere. Some in the X community, yeah, they do kind of want content, and that's where it gets kind of weird. I love the fact that you come from the heart, and I know that you'd be there to talk to people. And
Yeah.
I try to too, but it I feel their pain. So I can only do, we were talking about this about, I don't want to do Scientology content for a living or anything.
No.
It's not about that. It's because we were talking about this, how it takes something out of you. You know, it's hard to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I got to have a video out every day and all this stuff. It has to be something that actually means something to you. Otherwise, I don't know how some of these people do it every day. And like I said, when my friends, if you're navigating to talk to certain people, there's plenty of supportive people here. But don't let it be about somebody trying to hornswoggle you into content for their gain or anything. Because YouTube in itself, maybe it's not just with ex Scientologists or whatever, it's a YouTube thing. But if you want
100%. Yeah.
somebody to talk to, I'm not trying to load up your email, but I've vetted them all, my friends, and Kelly's at the top of the list in terms of people that honestly would care. I really appreciate you saying that,
Yeah.
Kelly. A few more comments, if you don't mind. I mean, I told you we were only going to go for an hour,
No,
but
it's
we're
okay.
already
It's fine. We have a good
okay.
chat, we always
We
do. Like, it's
do.
even
There's,
when we talk on the phone, we talk for
I
ages.
know, I know. What can I say? We have high ARC. I only use Scientology words, my friends, with other mates. I don't make a habit of it. Poa, how you doing, my friend? I never got to have any closure with my dad before he died suddenly. Oh, I'm sorry, man. Is
Yeah,
that
it sucks,
recently?
dude.
And I was ready to speak my piece with him. Was he ready to speak with you, poet? Because I was ready to do that too, but I could never actually talk to him. I hope Kelly finds closure with her father. I do too, but also don't want to pressure Kelly to on your own time on whatever you feel, right? I'm not sure I would be able to quote unquote forgive if that was done, but at the same time, well, you know what I said, Kelly? I never got to have a resolution with my dad, but I've talked about it before. It ended as best as it could.
Yeah.
So he was an OT8 and he had to, the door was always open. This is what my family would say to me about Scientology. From their perspective, the door was always open for me to come back and get my ethics in, even though I'd been away for 10 years. It's
I
crazy,
hate
right?
that.
But they're
I
stuck.
hate
It's like,
that.
I know we love them so much. We're just leaving the door open. But on the reverse of that,
We're
I
waiting for you.
isn't that
No.
wild?
No.
And the thing is, Kelly, though, I was doing the same thing. I said, look, I don't actually care. They've done so much that they probably can never take responsibility for. But if they ever came and not even apologized right out of the gate, because it's an onion peeling process, but if they took even a microcosm of responsibility, or they themselves started to see that something was wrong with Scientology and then felt compelled to try to make it up, the door was always open. You know, it always is. I still have a little bit of communication with my mom, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And she's hurting because dad has passed, which kind of takes Scientology out of the picture. They're not all vulturing on her. And I think she's actually peeled away. We haven't
Yeah.
really talked about it too much, but I always felt like no matter what happens, if they're sincerely understanding what's happened and they can take responsibility and they're willing to see some of that, the door, I would have let them right back in.
Yeah.
But
do you want things to change with her?
she's about 80, Kelly. She probably will be around a few more years if we're lucky. And I just love talking to my mom after all these. I don't. It's just amazing to talk to my mom after all these years because I haven't talked to her for like 10 years, and
Yeah.
I don't care what it's about. She sounds lovely on the phone and she makes jokes, and it's just really weird. Like, oh my God. I haven't, it's been so long that I'll take any moment I can get with her before she rolls out too, like my dad, you know?
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
don't think
bless you,
she'll
dude.
ever kind of understand, but she doesn't really need to. It's all good to me. Things change when you get older, right, Kelly? Like they had to get a restraining order on me because I threatened to kill him. You know, I went through every emotion you can imagine and way to get their attention, but they made me process it on my own. So they took me really, really deep into myself. And I had to get to a point where I had to kill them off on my mind a long time ago because I knew they weren't coming back. And I need to be able to go forward with my life. And I need to heal this trauma, even though they're carrying on with their life with my sister and the grandkids and just Doug suffering in
Yeah.
the corner. I did get something out of it though. Like I don't need them to not be a Scientologist, which is not dissimilar to them me needing to become a Scientologist. In other words, you do your life, I'll do mine. And the only way I could frame it to prevent myself from killing them or myself was thanks for the grand lesson of going within, because there's no way out of this. And that hurt so bad that I actually changed because of it. My own behavior changed. I went from an asshole, angry my whole life and really self-centered with a limited empathy around me to completely opening up my heart. And for them and this experience, that wouldn't have happened without that. So even though they don't know they get credit for that, and it was kind of weird the way it came about, I do thank them without them ever understanding that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. No, it does. That's
I'm
true.
sorry to hear that, by the way, poet. That sucks. And I hope Kelli finds some closure with her father too. But again, on your own time, and you make the rules, right? I'm sure you don't want people to tell you what you need to think about your dad, how you need to forgive. It comes as it comes, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you would kind of meet him halfway? In other words, as much as he's willing to undo the programming and accept responsibility and maybe communicate some of that to you, does that determine the degree to which you let him back in your life? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's ongoing, it's a process, it's a progression, and you know, he's not in a position to hurt me. He's not in a position to let me down at the end of the day. So, because that's the level of trust you give to someone, to give them the option to let you down and know that they won't. So we'll see. We'll get there. But it has been good that we're talking, and I feel I'm happy about it for sure, and especially because I've got he's in touch with my brothers and stuff. I'm gonna see him at events and things for them, like weddings or whatnot. So yeah, it's just ongoing, and we're dealing with it day by day.
Good. And at least you're in communication and he's working through his stuff. And the best thing is he's not a Scientologist anymore. So there's hope of rekindling and reconnection, right? And good for him for getting out of it. He can live a much better life. You know what I mean? Wherever you are, Kelly's father, congratulations. And, that can be a really hard process that he also has to deal with and understand what he did to his daughter and stuff. That can't be easy.
No. Lydia von Stretchclaw, Kelly's accent more north of England than Cornish. It's definitely not Cornish, okay? I'm from Manchester. Cornish is like farmer. I'm just going to put that out there. It's like, all right, me old lover. It's literally like that. What the hell? No, I'm from Manchester.
I think Lydia corrected that in the previous comment. I just Lydia, I just threw up this one, but that's very funny. We got some good humor.
I was gonna say, people thinking I'm a farmer out here. What's going on?
All these parents should never have had kids. Yeah, vegan. That's what I was talking with HG Tutor, where everybody thought I was like promoting his, New World Order eugenics version. This is the psychopath Kelly that I was talking to, and I was asking him, shouldn't there be some test? Because anybody can have a kid, and you can be psychopathic or sociopathic, and there's no rules or regulations, and then you're guaranteed to pass your subconscious blind spots like your mom did onto you. So I just, this triggers a question where HG was explaining that there needs to be rules, but like I said, it was we need to control the eugenics, and he's just from a soulless point of view. And my question was, shouldn't there be some rules on who should have kids? But then again, who gets to decide who that is? And it's a fine line between once you start dictating who can have kids and who cannot, that reminds people of certain totalitarian systems. Yeah. So yeah, vegan, but I do. I mean, there should be some.
What does HG want to do? Want to test everyone before or something?
I asked him the question, Kelly, about like, should there be some kind of test to determine if people should have kids? Because if you are fucked up, you're going to fuck your kids up. So maybe anybody can have kids, and basically as many as you want. So he twisted it around where he said, absolutely, Doug. I do think that I just went into L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know why, when HG is an Englishman. So he said, Kelly, I'm not even going to try to attempt it because you're British and I'm not going to do it in front of you. But HG said he twisted that. And from his point of view, he says, absolutely, Doug, there needs to be a test, and everybody needs to be in their place. He was describing Brave New World, where literally he looks down on most people. Of course, he being the supreme narcissist, if he had his way, he would basically build a world where everybody would be so tightly controlled and know their place, and art would be sucked out of the soul. It was a very cold way of monitoring who gets to have kids. That, like I said, is straight out of Brave New World. And what I was just asking him was, hey, my parents, perhaps if they had had some kind of a test before they had me, my mom wouldn't be saying shit around the house like, look at the fat ass kid that we had. Look at the home videos and ha ha ha, he was a mistake. While I'm sitting there going, shit, my parents don't really love me, do they? Anyways,
That's
that's all I was asking them. Two more,
Let's hope
Kelli.
that HD doesn't end up running the world. He's a
I
scary
don't think
dude.
it's going to happen. He's funny. I guess he could be charming for a psychopath, but I think he's limited in his thinking. He can't connect with anything deeper. So I
Yeah.
think
It's psychopath where you don't have emotion, like you can't feel emotions. Is that right? Like you can't.
you can feel emotions, but you cannot feel empathy, and you
Okay.
can't. You don't have a conscience, which I don't know about you, Kelly, but if you really think about that, that's only a small handful of people, and thank God most people see. Could you imagine going to sleep at night where you did something that your dad did, for example, or my dad, and you not only don't think about it, like it would keep you up. If you do something bad, you feel bad. It actually weighs on
Yeah,
your
yeah.
mind. Could you imagine nothing that you ever did, no matter how bad it was, ever caused you to lose sleep? You never doubted yourself as to whether you did wrong. Could you see the kind of power that
Yeah,
might actually
wow.
advantage that might give over someone if you really actually felt that way? So from his
Yeah.
point of view, since he's never known emotions, he thinks that he has this grand advantage, which in a way is kind of right, because he says he feeds off people that are empathic and that have emotions, that we're, people like you
What do
would
you
be
mean feed
targets.
off them? What does that even
Meaning
mean?
feeding off the emotional content, getting a reaction out of him when he makes people angry, when he makes people sad, and when he gets a compliment. That's his fuel. That's his life force. And if he doesn't get that reaction, he can't operate like you and me, where we get our sustenance from good friendships and the birds and shit chirping in the yard. He goes crazy. He
Don't
needs
like the
to have that
birds.
stimulation. Yeah, he's a psychopath.
Um,
So it's just a different viewpoint that I'm glad I don't understand, but they have a tendency to get in positions of power. So I like to understand them because we need
mm.
to, basically. Two more,
I
Kelly, and
wonder
we're,
if he'd. I wonder if he'd play werewolves. Someday.
oh, the only reason do you want me to ask him? I mean,
Yes.
I'll ask him,
People in the
Kelly,
chat,
but
if you don't know what we're talking about, you'll find out soon. But I am
oh,
playing
you're in for a
playing a
treat.
game
Do you
soon.
want to? Do you want to tease it now, Kelly, or do you want to leave that for later? You don't have to spill the beans.
I won't say everything, but I will just say that in the spooky month of October, there's going to be some shenanigans.
And it's going to be fucking fun. I'm
There's
very
going to
much
be some
looking forward to
traitors. There's going to be
it.
murder.
Yes,
It's going
yes, but not Scientology real life shit. This is a game
No,
for
it's a
werewolves.
game. It's a game. It is
That's
a
going to
game.
be
And
so fun.
it should be fun. We're going to do it as a live stream. I'm just trying to finalize my cast at the moment.
And it's a
I
good
will be
cast.
announcing it soon. It should be great.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for setting that up, Kelly. I can't wait. And I can't wait to meet some of the people you're having on. It's going to be a fun freaking game right around Halloween time. We'll let you guys know about that more when it
Yeah.
comes up. Was Rathburn covering for Danny Masterson? Very good question. I think Rinder answered, because this is such a subject, Ivor. I don't think this is the place to get into it, but I think we'll be getting into this when we do Marty Rathbun's deposition, which is part of a video where I'm going to get into that regarding the cover up of Lisa McPherson, and did Mike Rinder and Marty Rathbun know about Danny Masterson? There's more to say on that, but thank you for that intriguing question. Educon, I haven't seen you for a while, man. Shout out to Rate My Takeaway on Doug's channel. I don't know what the hell that is, Kelly. Do you?
That's one of the examples I gave earlier of different little niches on the internet. Rate My Takeaway is like a massive thing. He goes around all over the country. He's got his little table and he just gets a takeaway. He folds his table right outside of the shop. He just eats it and rates it. It's so funny.
That sounds cool. I've never heard of that.
It's honestly silly, but he has a massive following doing that. Just like the guy who
Really?
chops wood. He's got a massive following.
How
That's what I
big does
mean.
a guy chopping wood have? How many followers does he have?
I don't even know actually, but he's up there. Like I'm talking hundreds of thousands of people. I think the Rate My Takeaway is in millions, I think.
Really?
So
Oh my
It's
gosh.
insane.
We're in the wrong niche. Forget talking about trauma and the stupid
I know.
Scientology shit. I got to learn how to chop some wood and fold a table, apparently. Thanks, Edgicon, for the comment.
Yes, thank
One more,
you.
Kelly, that just popped in here. Then we'll roll out of here, guys. But I really appreciate you being so open, Kelly, and just sharing today, man. And finally,
Thank
we got
you.
to talk. If you want me to come on your channel whenever, I've been dying, but
Yeah.
I just went first because I it's been too long.
Yeah.
We needed to do this.
Hell yeah. I'd love to have you on my channel too, by the way. So we'll
Anytime.
do
Thank
something
you.
soon.
Fucking A. Before or after Werewolves, we'll decide. We still Play-Doh snakes. I haven't seen you forever either, my friend. How you been? Doug, do you think L. Ron Hubbard's son would come on for an interview? You're talking about L. Ron Hubbard's great grandson, Jamie DeWolf. I would love to get him on. I met him once at Chris Shelton's. He was doing it. He was at the Center for Inquiry here in Pasadena, and I got to actually meet Jamie DeWolf. And he's a very interesting guy. And as you guys know who he is, he's very intelligent, quick-witted, articulate, and he can break down L. Ron Hubbard like nobody's business. Plus, he's done shows on him. You know who we're talking about, Kelly? Jamie DeWolf, the red-haired guy.
I have seen him. I think I watched him talk out about something about talking about his dad in like a court or something a long time ago. But that's cool. You met him though.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. Kelly, what he's kind of known for, at least, he's spoken out a lot on interviews and stuff, but he has this one-man show where he does this slam poetry, I think what it's called, where he gets up there and does like this rap thing. Guys, I will link that. There's a link to Kelly's channel in the description box. Please subscribe there if you haven't. And then I'll also link for sure Jamie's video, Kelly, what we're talking about right now, guys.
He's rapping.
Not rapping, it's spoken. I think it's spoken word, and it's just really powerful. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm sure we still knows what we're talking about, and other people. But Kelly, a couple hours after this video publishes, and to audience, I go through the videos, and anything we talk about will be linked in the description box. And by the way, yesterday's live stream got reported. I have no idea how they were able to get it taken down. It was the biggest viewed live stream. I'm going to do a video showing you what bullshit YouTube sent me. And just those links is what I wanted to say in the video yesterday, which were kind of important. You can now find that on BitChute, my friends, and I'll probably leave a link in there. I just need to say that, Kelly, real quick, because there's some shenanigans happened last night with fucking YouTube and some bullshit people reporting me, or who knows what the hell happened.
Is BitChute like a YouTube? Is it the same type of platform?
Same thing. It buffers a little bit. The quality isn't quite as high, but it's all free. It's the same exact thing. It's just you have to be on YouTube and deal with all their censorship bullshit, because it's the platform that reaches the people that need to be reached the most. And when you go on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute, they're great, but they don't. YouTube still has the best platform, unfortunately. Oh, thanks, Paula, for rolling over there. I appreciate it. Kelly, any last words before we roll out of here with the outro? Anything you'd like to say in summary?
Don't join cults, people.
Absolutely 100% perfect.
Thank you for having me, honestly.
Oh, thanks for coming on here.
You're so easy to talk to, dude. So easy to talk to. Good vibes all around.
You too, Kelly. I've been waiting for a while for this. Okay, guys, we're gonna keep you up to date on werewolves. Go subscribe to Kelli Copter's channel so we can have some fun October shenanigans. And I am going to be replacing this outro, but it's all I have for right now. So again, we give you a glimpse into the sordid cult and how evil the activities that we were talking about today actually are. Take care, my friends. And Kelly, I absolutely adore you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Hard physical labor and intense ideological study are used to break the subject's will. Or is that the case?